All right, good afternoon. Happy Friday. Uh, Good day to everyone. We have made it to the end of another week, which means that it is now time for the deep dive. This is the deep dive, which is a weekly live stream. Sorry, I'm a little distracted by my preview. I'm actually behind that guy. That should be the other way around. Let me fix that real fast. Sorry, I know we're already jumping off into rabbit holes. What is this guy? It's here, so let's move that up. That is what we want there. We want to be on top of that guy. Okay, sorry for that. How's it going, Paul Cutler? As I was about to get to, how's it going also over in the YouTube there? Thanks for tuning in, folks. Dave Odessa, The Autograph, and Strathy. Pleasure to have you folks in the chat with us here. So as I was about to say before I got distracted like a goldfish, my name is Tim. This is the Deep Dive program. This is a weekly live stream program where we are working on things related to CircuitPython. From week to week, it varies what's going on in, overall in the world of CircuitPython, and certainly what I'm working on specifically varies from time to time. If you do go back and watch some of the older episodes of this live stream, it was started by Scott, the lead developer of CircuitPython. I eventually took this over once Scott had a child and does not still have as much time on his hands throughout the week and can't really commit to the streaming schedule. And so I've been taking over since then. If you do watch some of the older ones, Scott's working in the core an awful lot, being the lead developer. That's where he spends most of his time. I would say, to the point where I'm maybe dipping my feet in the core. We're a little past dipping our toes in. We're probably up to dipping our feet in now, maybe up to the knee or so, even though that's kind of a weird analogy. So sometimes we do spend some time in the core, work on different things. Sometimes we work on libraries. Sometimes we work on infrastructure. Sometimes we work on projects. It just depends. But the thing that ties it all together is we always work on something related to CircuitPython. If you are brand new and don't know what CircuitPython is, you can learn more at the website here, circuitpython.org. This is basically an implementation of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. Here's a bunch of pictures of those microcontrollers. Essentially, each one of these devices has a chip on board, which is basically an entire computer inside that chip. Now, it is a relatively small computer. This is not like a laptop or a desktop computer. It's not typically going to be like gigahertz of processing power or anything crazy like that. It's a relatively small computer, but perfectly capable of interacting with various hardware peripherals, as well as doing relatively simple tasks with the network, drawing on displays, things like this. So these tiny computers can be programmed in various ways, and CircuitPython is one of the ways to program those tiny computers. With CircuitPython, the way this works is these little computers all will have a USB plug. You plug that a cord into there, you plug that device into your computer, it will show up like a thumb drive, and then on that thumb drive you'll be able to edit a Python code file just right on there in whatever text editor you want. And then when you save it, the CircuitPython system will automatically notice that your code has been saved and changed, and it will reset the device and run the latest version. So you can write this Python code to interact with all sorts of hardware peripherals. Some devices have lots of hardware things built in, like this device has a touchscreen built in, as well as a speaker and I think, light sensor maybe on the side over there. This device has got some Cherry MX keys built in, as well as a tiny screen and a knob. Some of these devices are more general purpose, where they don't have a lot of stuff built in. Like the Picos up here, for instance, these don't have too many things built in, but they have loads of I/O pins along the side, which you can then connect your own hardware peripherals onto those I/O pins and then interact with it through your Python code. Let me silence that for now. Cinco de Python, nice. Yeah, I had not thought of that before, but yeah, we do have a nice Cinco de Python going here. Will this be recorded? It will be recorded. Yeah, it's recorded and stored inside of YouTube, so you can always watch the VOD in the future on YouTube under the Adafruit YouTube account. I believe it should be the same link. As far as I'm aware, I think the link stays the same. So if you are watching us on YouTube, which I assume you are, as you did chat in the YouTube chat, I believe you can just keep the URL of the page you're in and then just watch that whenever you want. Sorry, I have kind of a loud coffee cup today. I guess this has a huge logo on the front of it, doesn't it? So that is the intro I got. Oh, that was interesting. Let me also say before we get the show all the way on the road, CircuitPython is an open source project. It is free to use. It's free to port to your own devices. It's free to use on your own devices. It would even be free if you wanted to use it in a product, although it's not warranted for that use. It's made primarily for teaching folks to develop. So you could certainly take a CircuitPython device and productize it, build it into some other product for a company, but you would kind of it's up to you to do a lot of the work to kind of lock it down if you want to use it in that capacity. So all of this stuff that you can do with CircuitPython, you don't have to pay for any of it. And the reason why that can happen is CircuitPython is open sourced and it is fully funded by this company, Adafruit. They are paying the folks who work on the CircuitPython project. There's a team of folks who are paid to work on the project full-time, like Scott, who I mentioned before, as well as a few others. There are some folks like me who are paid to work on the project part-time, and Adafruit is the entity that is paying us to do that. So huge thank you to them, of course, and thank you to anybody who wants to purchase hardware from them, because of course, once you are purchasing hardware from them, you're helping them keep the lights on, run the Adafruit factory, which is, of course, giving them the money to be able to pay the team who's working on CircuitPython. So that is a way that you can help out, even if you're not interested in getting involved in development or testing or anything on a technical level. If you just head over to adafruit.com and purchase hardware from there, you are helping out the project. So thank you if you do. How's it going, Isaac? Super duper fast, interesting thing that came today, which I'm fascinated by. It is completely unrelated to the entire rest of the stream and everything I've discussed so far, but random show and tell. Before I jump into it, I received this book today. This is an interesting thing, which I only became aware of relatively recently, within the last week or so. This is actually a reprint of an old book that they used back in the days of telegraphs. Inside this book, it's basically just pages and pages of all these numbers. It's pretty much just a dictionary where every word has a corresponding number. And these numbers and words were used back when they sent telegraph data back and forth. They would convert the real message into these numbers, apply some operation to it, which was agreed upon on both sides, and then convert those resulting numbers from the operation back to the words in the dictionary. And at that point, they could send the data across the telegraph, and it's not in plain text. Anybody who would see that information in the telegraph would not actually know what the real message was unless they both had a copy of this book or the data inside of it and knew the operations that you did on the numbers on the front side, on the side where the message came in. In order to descramble it, you would need to take those same operations in reverse. So if you added 100 to the numbers, you need to subtract 100 from the numbers on the opposite end. This is a super interesting thing to me. I like I said, I only learned of this very, very recently, and I was fascinated by this concept. And so my hug report related to this goes out to my wife this week, who is the one that helped me track down how to find this and be able to actually purchase it today, which is awesome. So that's cool. It's completely unrelated, like I said, but I wanted to just show it because I'm excited about it and I think it's neat. The spelling of secrecy is old timing. Yeah, so the book itself is from the early... actually, I think the late 1800s is when the actual, like, first edition came out. This is a reprint of the 3rd edition. 1888, is that a date though? On the 1st of 8, so the very, sorry about that, on the first, essentially introduction, the first bit of the introduction talks about February 1st, 1870. I don't know, they're talking about it as if it is who will work. They're talking about it as though it's in the future. Future tense to me. My reading and comprehension is not the best, and I did only take a quick scan, but potentially even pre-1870, the first edition of that, or at least the introduction. Is the book available? It is. If you search online for the title, which I'll show here and I'll drop in the chat, the title is Telegraphic Code to Ensure Secrecy in the Transmission of Telegrams. Telegraphic Code to ensure secrecy, which, yeah, that is an odd, I had not noticed that before. That is an interesting spelling of secrecy, isn't it? They have some letters that are bigger, but all the letters are capital, which I find interesting. If you have trouble, you provide the title later. I missed the cover. Yeah. Yep. If you have trouble finding that, I mean, I'll be on for a couple hours still. If you do happen to look around while I'm still here, if you have trouble finding that, I can give you like the ISBN or something as well, if need me. And if you still have trouble, you can ping me on Discord. I'm happy to share what I can. For sure, yeah. So maybe one of these days we'll make something related to that. I'm interested in the concept of a book with just a bunch of numbers in it that are used for codes like this. Small caps, okay, that's good to know. Maybe one day we'll somehow scan that into Python or find a version of it that is digitized and then make some encoding and decoding software for it. Maybe we'll play with that one of these days, but not today. Today I am looking at HTTP servers. In particular, I am looking at the new version of HTTP server, which I owe another big hug report to Michael Pocusa, who's been working on this. This is a PR over an HTTP server that adds a bunch of new features and functionality and just improvements, generally speaking, to the HTTP server library. Today, what I'm interested in working on is doing some more testing of this, but also I have kind of a specific project in mind. I will say the project that I have in mind, while it is a specific project, I don't really have a reason for building it. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know what I will do with it. I don't know exactly where I'm going with it, but I do know what I want it to do, which is kind of the first step to building something. So I'm going to get started. Basically, what I want is to run web server on the Feather. This happens to be a Feather ESP32 S2 TFT. And then I would like to use a Feather tripler, which is what I have here, or even truthfully, I would like to bump up to a Feather quadrupler. And I would like to plug in 2 in this case, or even a 3rd extra Feather wing. And then I would like to run the web server on this Feather and have the web server host a page that allows you to control the rest of these other Feather wings. So the Feather wings I have on there right now, 14x4 segment display, that's I think HTK 1633 or something like that. And then a NeoPixel Feather wing, which has 8x4 rows of NeoPixels. So I'd like to add a 3rd one to the mix, and I'd like to be able to control all of them from an HTTP server. I don't have the quadrupler yet, so we are just working with the tripler here. We're working with these things, but I figure that's good enough to get us started. So we're kind of going 2 birds, 1 stone here to test this out, as well as build this specific thing, which I happen to want to build, even though I don't necessarily have a real world use case for it. As part of that process, I will need to make a PR. I mean, I wouldn't need to make a PR, but we're going to be making a PR to the HTK, I don't know the right number, HT16K, the library that drives the 14 segments. I have some changes for that library in order to support the non-blocking marquee scrolling of text. And I will show you what I mean by that once we get on our device and go back to, what did I call this? Probably, I think, non-blocking. Yeah, there it is, non-blocking marquee. So we're going to grab that. We're going to go to CodePy. Oops, current CodePy is just a NeoPixel Hello World, basically. Let's get TO running. Okay. Oh, we should. I might need to turn the light off. Does that get any better if I turn the light off? Yeah, that's much better. So we have text scrolling across here. We also have LED animation running on the NeoPixels down here. I had to modify the HTK 16 whatever library a little bit in order to make that possible. Let's see. The library as written today, before these changes, has a function called marquee right here. This function marquee pretty much does the text scrolling thing like this, right? Pretty much does what we want. The problem with it, though, is that it's blocking. It doesn't return. You have kind of two modes of operation. You can tell it either loop true or loop false. When you tell it loop true, it just runs forever and ever inside of here. It's just a while true loop. It never returns unless you control C or something to break out of it. If you pass loop false, then it will play through once. It will scroll the text all the way through once, and then it will return when it's done, which is less blocking, but still blocking. Like, while it's running, you cannot be doing anything else. So we couldn't be taking steps in the animation. We couldn't be updating the display. We couldn't be serving web pages from the HTTP server or reacting to HTTP requests that are coming into the server. We couldn't be doing any of those things while marquee is running. So pretty fundamentally, for this to work how I want, we need a way to scroll the text without blocking. We want to be able to kind of refactor this to be where you call it once and it takes one step if it needs to. And then you just keep calling it over and over and over again inside the main loop, and it will just keep track of how long it's been since the last step and update itself accordingly. Essentially, we want an interface, an API, that's pretty much the same as what we have for the NeoPixels with their animation. For those familiar, or not familiar, I should say, with NeoPixel animation, the LED animation library specifically is what I'm talking about. In this case, you initialize your animations. Optionally, you can put them into a sequence or a group. In this case, I do have them into a sequence. When you want to actually animate, what you do is inside your main loop, you just call animations.animate. You just call that function on whichever animation you want to run, or in this case, the sequence of all of them. This gets called over and over and over really, really fast inside the main loop. And each time it gets called, it checks whether it's been a long enough period of time since the last step, and then it turns on and off the LEDs accordingly to the current animation step. We need a function that's like that for the marquee, which is exactly what I've made. Non-blocking marquee. You give it the text, you give it the delay. It basically has roughly the same API as the regular marquee. Although I have not messed with loop yet. We should... Oh, I have accepted loop, but we... that's interesting. It's not actually being used yet. The goal is to make the API basically the same, with the exception being that you are expected to call it every iteration of the main loop, or at least really quickly within the main loop. That way you can keep doing other stuff as well. I should say also, how's it going? Hello to Nirdoc and to Shippu over in the chat. Thank you for dropping the knowledge of the way that that word is spelled, and also the capitalization I mentioned before. Those are both new facts to me, and I'm happy to have learned them. So first thing we're going to do is clean this up and get the PR submitted for it. Also, we're going to probably want to do loop, I guess, right? So let's implement the functionality for loop first. And Well, actually, I kind of want to dive into the server piece of it. Yeah, I'm not going to do loop just yet. I'm going to dive more into the server and actually get going on that part of it. We'll come back around at some point and clean up the loop stuff. One thing I do want to do, though, is I'm pretty sure the code in here is different now. I'm also going to probably have to go turn the fan on. So that I'm started up. It's actually getting kind of warm in here. So I believe this version is, yeah, this is newer, actually. So let me grab this and put it into the repo. Yeah, I'm going to dive straight into the server. I'm not going to clean up and get ready for the PR yet. But ultimately, this code is going to depend on this non-blocking marquee, so we're going to have to get that submitted and into the library if I want this code to be usable by other people, which I do. The goal here is kind of to make a medium to high level advanced example of HTTP servers interacting with other hardware. We do need the HTTP server library as well, and we want the latest version of that from the PR, which I don't have yet, I don't believe. So I'm going to open that here. Yeah, I'm going to go turn the fan on real fast also. Okay, sorry. Let's see here. HTTP server, we want to go up. We want to check out the latest one, which I'm actually... let's try it. I think I can just do this again. GHPR list, GHPR checkout. Oh yeah, the fan is much appreciated. So nice. Okay. Okay, yeah, there we go. We got the latest version. For some reason I was thinking maybe that didn't work. Maybe I need to delete the branch, but no, it doesn't. You just grab it like that. So let's grab this. We want to put that on our device. It's not our device. Device is over here. I might need to delete something. I don't actually know. I'm going to delete the old one, I guess. That's a good place to start. Joined a bit late, but thanks to 2x, I'm already up to date. Nice, yeah. YouTube time manipulation is really, really nice. I do that sometimes as well. Either start late and speed up, or it's also really nice to be able to go down to half speed or quarter speed if you're trying to like watch a replay or a slow-mo of something. But yeah, I pretty regularly will do YouTube at like 1.25 on stuff. If I can still understand the person, then I'm happy to watch at 1.25 and just kind of consume it a bit quicker, basically. Although it depends on who you're watching. Some YouTubers really speed themselves up already in the video, and so you can't. You start to get a little like squirrel speech going on if you speed up too much sometimes. Okay, so there's our HTTP server. So to start with, let's go nice and easy, basic. Let's just do. We want a web page. Let's say with a text input for the text that's going to be scrolling. We want a drop down, let's say, to select the currently executing animation. And then probably like, I guess, a submit button to submit it. Yeah, we could submit it automatically from JavaScript, right? Like whenever it changes, we could submit it, but then it's like submitting with every character, or else we need some kind of logic to slow it down. We don't necessarily want to hit the server super hard because it is running inside a microcontroller. I think it's probably good to have the requests be driven by user action, like clicking a submit button, because the user can only click so fast, and most users will click much slower than they can, obviously. A lot of people are not going to just spam your button as fast as they can. So I am gonna, well, actually we do have static here. I guess I'll just, should I use static or should I make a new folder? Let's make a new folder for this project. What do I want to call this thing? I don't really know. HTTP controller. peripheral controller. Let's call it HTTP peripheral controller. I might have misspelled that. It doesn't give me spell check in there. I'm not that good at spelling. Peripheral. Oh. We'll fix it. I haven't really gone anywhere yet. Inside of here, I want index, HTML. Let's call this, let's just say, feather controller? I don't know, that's probably not the best word either. Could be peripheral controller. It's kind of wordy, honestly. It's way too big for a, title, but title also doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, so I'm not going to spend too much time trying to exact best thing. Input type. So we're going super basic first, input with text. Control Alt L is weird, okay. Is this? It doesn't like to be an input? Why is that? Associated label. Yeah, that's fair, I guess. Label. Let's go 14 by 4 seg text. 14 by 4 segment text. Input, let's give this an ID. The ID is the marquee text, or let's just call it the segments text. I kind of like to put input as well. It's overly verbose because the thing is an input, but this is nice because then in your JavaScript, if you look it up, you also can see it's an input. I find that I get wordy with variable names sometimes. I prefer more wordy than less, peripheral. Yeah, thank you. We'll have also a drop down for the animations. So let's call this animation. It's a LED animation because that's the exact name of the library is LED animation. This one is going to be a select. So templating is not a thing that's necessarily built in, I don't think, to the HTTP server library, but I think I want to actually start. Is that true though? Because we don't have like for loops. No, let's go hard coded first. Sometimes I gotta tamper my propensity to try to be too generic too early. Like I'm thinking ahead to like, wouldn't it be nice if this could be a template and we could pass in an object that has all of the available animations, and then that way inside the code it just says loop over the animations and spawn an option for each one. And it would be nice, but I think first step we should just hard code it first and then worry about templating and anything like that. So value, we're just going to go with the ones that are already in the code, but obviously you could make it be any ones you want, right? I think I want the maybe we want both ultimately. Let's go all lowercase for the value, and the value is ultimately going to map to a dictionary, and the dictionary is going to hold these variables. But we will do the capital ones on the front end, so to speak, and the text the user sees, we'll do it that way. Why is this changed? Oh, because I did that comment, but I think it's like functionally changed. No templating yet, but you can expose an API and do it from JavaScript. That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, we could have a JSON API, and then our JavaScript could hit the API and render the DOM elements as needed. I do like that idea. That's probably what we'll aim for ultimately. You know what would be super convenient? Lamo. We're almost done. I have something duplicated. Chases. Oh gosh, wow, we're really all messed up here, aren't we? Chase, comet, chase, comet, sparkle. We have a drop down there. That's like the most basic page, but I think that's really what we want. You want them to be not on the same row or whatever. Let's go, I mean, we could make a div for each one, that probably would work. We could add a break tag, that would also probably work. Could make something display block, that would also probably work. Oh, does this refresh itself? That was interesting. I do want some space between them as well, so let's get started with some basic CSS as well. And we might as well put our CSS in another file. That's best practice, right? So let's go style. CSS will be, this will be, what do we want to do? So let's give these a name. Let's say input group, maybe? Input group. Class input group. Input group. Let's go a little bit of margin. I don't remember which one's which. I believe we got it wrong way around though. Oh, right. Not taking any effect because we put it in its own file and then we did not link it. Link rel style sheet href that. But oh, that, you know, that should work. I think that should work. .304. We did get this. Okay, maybe we also had it right the first time on the way around of this. There we go. And I want a little bit more, actually. Okay, so let's put a title, and then we'll call that good for version 0.01. Nice and wordy, very big. Probably won't fit on a phone screen. Eventually we'll try to make that more succinct, probably. Okay, so I'm gonna keep, actually we have this already, right? This is already in non-blocking scroll test. Yeah. I'm gonna cut this part out. This one, it makes a heart on the pixels when it very first loads up. I don't know if we've actually caught it on the camera or not. This one's not an LED animation though. That heart that's there for the first little second or whatever is just all hard-coded from these. We're gonna take that out for now. Eventually we might also add a mode where the user can paint the pixels one by one or whatever instead of just setting the animation. May eventually get to there as well, but start here. Let's not call this display. segment display. Just because, like, if we eventually want to show stuff on the screen, then we're probably gonna have another variable called display. Yeah, I don't really want to do that. Let's do it this way. We're gonna go. Also need the server code. I am gonna go with basic one first. Auto meaning the Wi-Fi connection auto, which is still the case for me. That's like if you have settings.toml, necessarily matter which order, I guess, we do this stuff in. We don't really want to install, we just import. Why is that? Static is not static. It was HTTP peripheral controller, HTTP peripheral controller. Peripheral. I always want to, I think my deal is I want to put more eyes in it. We'll leave debug true. Eventually we'll maybe turn that off. For now it'll be good though. True. Probably won't work the first time we load it up, so. Oops. This one does use serve forever. Let's actually do this one. Where we want to go start server. Whoops. This is basically the non-blocking. This is the analogy of the non-blocking, essentially. So the server library also can have a serve forever, which basically works the same way as that blocking marquee that I showed at the very, very beginning. But it also has a non-blocking version, which is this one here, which is expecting to be called quickly every time in the main loop, basically. So we start it and then we call poll or something, I think, right? Yeah. Oops, why is my alt tabs not wanting to go, it seems like? Okay, so we're going to leave all this stuff the same, but also add server.poll, which is going to handle the HTTP server for us. So that should be, I think, enough to run and serve our index page. There's a lot of extra prints, and so it's kind of tricky to... All right, whatever. 102 is the IP. Whoops. Want to let me copy very easily. Oops. And it's on port 80, so we don't need to specify the port. We could just do that. There's our page. Serving that, we're good to go. So we need the page to actually like do something at this point, right? Now we have a page, it's here, I can type stuff, I can choose something, but nothing happens. Because it's not getting sent anywhere, it's not doing anything with it. Right now it's front end only, no functionality. One more thing we do want, like I said before though, is the submit button. I'm just going to go ahead and make an input group for that, even though it's by itself. I mean, I guess the other ones are by themselves too. Button. I'm not going to do class submit. I don't, or type submit. I don't want it to like behave like a form. I want to handle the Ajax, I think, myself rather than relying on HTML form. All right, I did save, and it actually will refresh, but we do have to wait for it to get back up and running. There we go. Okay, so now we have a submit button as well. Perfect. So I want to handle the request when we submit rather than using a form. The way that I am most familiar doing that is jQuery, which I'm going to add as a CDN. Rather than hosting it on the microcontroller, we can actually just have jQuery on the internet, obviously. Well, jQuery is on the internet, hosted in various places. We're going to use one of those places instead of hosting it ourselves inside of our tiny limited web server. Limited mostly in file size, honestly. The biggest thing I'm trying to save here is not storing the copy of jQuery on the device, because it's like, I don't know, a couple hundred K or something. Not sure how big it is, certainly. To be certain, I should say. Make sure it's working. We're going to go... Should turn off some of the prints. That's just gonna like look up the button and print an object for it. Basically nothing, but it should tell us if we got jQuery successfully imported. Which it looks like we did. So we got a 200 on it there. So go over here. We now have this printout, which is what it printed. Firefox has conveniently turned it into this object thing that we can hover on and do all sorts of interesting stuff with, which is helpful for debugging. In our case, though, it's working exactly how we want. You don't need jQuery. That's true, we don't. We could do it without jQuery. Let's use fetch. How about that? We'll use fetch. Fetch post request. That's true. We don't need jQuery necessarily. I am just most familiar with it. I am trying to use fetch more, though, so thank you for mentioning it. It does force async, which I could go without in my JavaScript, but I still kind of want to use jQuery for the click listener. I also don't have to use it for that. We could use vanilla JavaScript. Truth is, I just find it convenient. Data object is build the data object and then pass it to post and then let response object equals that. Oh, wait, no, that's not returning. Result, yeah, no, that doesn't return. That does not return. I mean, it returns, but it returns a promise, not the value. Document get element by ID and fetch are all used in your examples. Yeah. There's a good case to be made for it. Once we get to creating the elements as well, I find jQuery really convenient for that as well. Like if we did want to have the JSON API, which will have the list of animations that we support, and then dynamically populating the dropdown in the front end, the stuff here, instead of hard coding it, will involve creating those elements, which I also find a lot more convenient with jQuery. But it's a preference thing. You could definitely go without. We don't want to post it here. In fact, we could probably just use... Oh, we don't want to do blank, I guess. Let's give it to, say we will call this what? Submit data? I mean, that's awfully generic, but I guess it works. We will need another handler inside of here. So this is after we initiate the server, but before we call start. Document query selector. Yeah. When I do skip jQuery, I do lean on query selector a lot more than get element by ID. I will say that as well. That is definitely true. Sorry if that's loud. Like a metal coffee cup and a metal straw. We don't want to handle base. We want to handle what we just linked to, which was submit data. We want to handle posting, which means I think we need methods or something. Is that right? List. Whoa, it did the alt tab thing again. Why is it doing that? This one's going to accept post only. Is the other stuff in there? Do we need anything else? A pen slash. Oh, right. We could do it that way. Yeah, thank you for adding that, by the way. I saw your message about that. I don't think I posted anything else back on the PR and GitHub yet, but I did see your message. A pen slash true. Not do that. It's not gonna return an HTML page. It's gonna return a JSON response. We might want this still. What is it? Yeah. It's like, what is JSON? Recent text. Send. I like to use this as kind of my across the board JSON API. If the thing works, then you send back success true. If the thing fails, it would be success false. There would be another key called error, which would have a string for human readable message to show the user. We will need to get the data that was posted also. How did we do that before? Pretty sure we did that before. Is that on this device or is it on the other device? URL parameters. That's not quite what I want though. I want the body. Sure, we did figure this out the other day. I don't recall the. It's not response. No, it wouldn't be response. It'd be request. There's raw bytes. We could do, I guess, body. There we go. That's what we want. Body is going to be a bytes JSON. Ah, okay. That's what we want right there. JSON. That's actually nice and convenient because I am going to send JSON. So for now, let's just go print. Well, let's get the object. Request object. Request obj equals request.json. Print request object. This segments text. Let's just print that for now. So then here, when we are going to send our request, we need to have our build data function. Pixel example. This one does params. This one does the body. And in this case, does not decode it as JSON necessarily, although it happens to be maybe valid JSON. I think technically you're not supposed to be a list on the outside, but lots of stuff accepts it anyway. This is build. Whoa. Okay. So that should put the value from the input into this object, return the object. The object should get put in here, then should get passed into post.json, which should put it as the body to the post request. Okay, seems good. Save it. Let's see if I can cut out some of the prints. Really, it's inside of segments. Let me take a short detour into there and clean prints for now. Let's just that's interesting. Our two libraries are right next to each other. File. Yeah, that should print way less. It had an error anyway, unsupported type for hash and list. 9. And slash. That's supposed to be not this? Does it need a name, maybe? Expected string, but got list. How's it going, Axel? Wait for hash list. 18 inside of route. Is blank. Oh, we're not in route.py, we're in server, excuse me. There we go. It's in a function called route. Methods. It's a set. Maybe it's should not be a list, but a tuple, or it's a set else method. Maybe we should not do a list for now. No one says string there. Have the example as a. Does it do like this? Oh. My example code, I wrap the handlers in try. Oh, nice. Body exception error, show the error. Print traceback. Methods. You did call it methods. I wonder if that's the or you did method actually. Oh, we did seem to have gotten it. I wasn't paying attention, but it seems like it's running. I didn't see if it printed the success of the starting the server. What? Oh, right. This off so we get a little bit less prints again. Okay, still have that one. I don't know what that's from. Oh, there it is. All right, 102, port 80. Loads successfully. Sent a post request, got a 200 response. That is looking good so far. Our response was success true. Let's look at our data. Nice. So we sent the data, we got a successful response. We read the data successfully inside there as well because we were able to print it. So from there, we could use that to change the text that is scrolling. In order to do that, we do need to have a variable for it. Let's start on the IP actually. Before you set the text, let's make it the IP, which we can get from Wi-Fi.radio. IPv4 address. I have all this logic in here, which was changing the text. This was basically my attempt to test that when we changed the text, it was actually working properly. In actuality, we don't really need that logic, though, because now our string will change when the user submits the page. Text to scroll. And in our handler, we set text to scroll equal to the new value. The problem is, though, it's not a global variable or whatever, so if we set it inside of here, it's not going to work, actually. So let me make a context object that is a dictionary that basically will serve the same purpose. Context dictionary. This will actually be text to scroll, because dictionaries are special and don't have the same problem with not being able to set variables inside functions. We'll eventually add the animation to this as well, but for now we have just that. Because it's a dictionary, now we're able to change it inside of here. We should make sure we actually have it, I guess. All right, when we get the post, it should update the value in the dictionary, and our scrolling should always be scrolling the value in the dictionary, so we should be able to change the text by submitting the page. Camera seems to have died a while ago. Okay, so we have the IP, 192.168.1.102. That's pretty cool. And then for the thing here, let's go hello deep divers. It does not appear to have changed. It says we posted it. Looks like we posted it there. We printed it. We got the right value. Ah, right. That's not... Okay. There we go. While that reruns, I'm actually going to run to the restroom as well. BRB. Okay. Nope, crashed. Saw the stuff there. Right. There we go. Hello, deep divers. So one thing that I noticed is that it scrolls, it starts in the middle. Does it? Maybe it doesn't. At least it didn't look like it did that time. But that's maybe because it was longer. Oops. No, I don't know. For some reason, the first time I thought it didn't. For some reason, the first time I thought it didn't start at the beginning, but I'm starting to think I was wrong now. It could also be the camera too. This camera could drop frames. I was looking at it, not the actual device. Okay, yeah. Definitely started at the beginning. Okay. Animation drop down. Push to fix for the problem with methods. The way you did it the first time should have worked. Also segments keys. Segments line 65. Yep. Segments keys was, I had that one wrong. Yep. Thank you for that. I will actually just go ahead and update. Bam. Live development today on the deep dive. I'll update my one on the device as well. Just copy that. We'll delete this one. Paste that. Yeah, and then we can go back to the one with a list here. Yeah. Oh, let's reset. Probably something wrote a file or something. Okay, animations, I want to be... Well, in a dictionary, do we want that dictionary to be on context? I mean, we might as well. Right. This will have the name of the animation and then the actual animation object, which in our case is actually going to be the same. We actually do want to make our context after we create all of these. We want to be able to access them. I should do. Four animations, each one has a key and the animation, and then we also want current animation. And I'm just going to set it to rainbow by default. Except for not rainbow the string, we actually want rainbow the object. And then in our main loop here, instead of saying animations.animate, we are going to say context current animation.animate. So whichever animation object gets put in current animation, that is the one that we will play the frame for. So if we update the one that's inside the context, it should change which animation is playing. Let's make sure that much works. We don't actually have a way to change it just yet, but let's make sure that it actually works and runs rainbow, which it looks like it is. So next, we will make it so we can actually update it. So index, we want, when we build the data object, we want to also include the selected animation, which reminds me, actually, usually on selects, I like to put a default one that shows value. I like to use -1 for this. It's kind of random because it's a string, but I don't know. It's just a thing I do. Select animation. I like to do this as like, so this way when you look at the page, it will say select animation in the drop down, except not in Firefox unless you hard refresh with Control F5, because Firefox saves whatever value is in user enterable elements like inputs and dropdowns. Firefox actually saves it through a refresh, so you have to hard refresh. Chrome, I think, does not, though I suspect I probably will eventually. It's like, it's convenient sometimes and inconvenient other times. It's an interesting feature. Sorry again if that's loud. I have learned my lesson to stick to the glass cups for the coffee. The microphone is like right in front of me here. I don't know if that's like insanely loud when it's picking it up, but so I apologize. So we want to grab our selected animation. The way that we do that is by, well, with jQuery, I think we can just say the val of our select. So let's give that an ID. We'll call that the, is that right? I don't know if I might be wrong about being able to do that. We'll see. That's going to be the animation select. And then when we build the data object, we are going to go animation is going to be still inside the index file, so I don't know where we just went, but it's not the right place. Animation will be the value that we get out of the select. Animation select. I think we can do that. So let's do that and then print it and see if it worked. Let's print the whole object in here. Obviously, you would want to turn that off eventually if you were trying to like use this in a real production environment. You don't want to just print all the data that the user sends your web server, but you're building your web server, it can be kind of convenient. Okay, so theoretically, oh, it's reloading again. Just gonna refresh the page again and make sure it doesn't reset the device there again. Okay, perfect. So theoretically, this will send our selection now. Including, I guess, technically, it should send the -1, so let's do a submit. We did get back a 200. Our animation is still running, which I'm actually, well, am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised. Our marquee has stopped. One thing we should, do we want to do it that way? That would use a lot of paper. would use a lot of paper? What would use a lot of paper? Sorry, I think I probably just said whatever that was related to, but I'm drawing a brain fart, so to speak. A lot of paper to do with printing. Oh, print all of our, yeah, print all of our stuff. Print the paper, yes. Sorry, took me a minute. That's a funny story, honestly, because so for folks not familiar with JavaScript, if in JavaScript, there is a method called console.log. This is the way that you print. This is the way, like in Python, we would call this printing. We would say this value got printed. This thing here got printed. In Python code, we would say print, and then it's going to show up wherever the printed text comes. In CircuitPython, it's in here. Regular Python, it's in the console where it executed or whatever. If you were to cross your wires, though, and do it backwards, if you were to put a print inside of here accidentally, though, it assumes that you are trying to print to a printer with a piece of paper. So then when you submit this, you now get like print preview, and it's like, do you want to print it to this printer? I cannot tell you how many times in my life I have accidentally called print inside of JavaScript. It's been a lot. There you go, yeah. I'm hoping one of these days that will just come by default, much to the chagrin of people who make websites that actually want to print things, but... Alright, sorry, that was a tangent. That's what you made me think of, though, talking about the paper. Teletype terminals was once a thing. Alright, where are we at here? We've got our text in there. We're sending our data. We did print all of our data here, so we did get it. One thing we could decide is, do we actually want to allow sending blank for that, or do we want to just keep that how it was? I think I would prefer to keep it how it was. So I think what I'll do is, on the JavaScript side, we are gonna say we are gonna do this differently. We're gonna create object, and then we're gonna, I guess, go ahead and make variables out of these. Whoa. Animation select. Variables from these, so we can stop calling jQuery over and over again, so this thing will stop being yellow and crying. We actually want this to be different. We want if that val. It's not a parenthesis at all, though. If that is not empty string, then we want to add it to object. I don't know why I cannot be consistent with quotes. I actually do that in my Electron app. I also do it in all my JavaScript without semicolons anymore. That's enticing. I have not made it there. I forget semicolons sometimes, but I have not made it to the point where I intentionally omit them, but that certainly sounds fun. I do a lot of switching back and forth between Python and JavaScript. Is it like, is it officially supported with no semicolons, or is it just still the case? Like, last I knew, it was the case that, like, technically semicolons are required, but the browsers are really forgiving, and they'll let you get away with it if you don't put them. Is it like officially supported now? Because does TypeScript have semicolons? I think there is some JavaScript that's even like written without by default. So if it's not empty, then we put it into the object, and we're actually Going to do the same thing for animation, and then we'll get rid of the pre-loaded ones. This way we only send data for the ones the user has actually changed. And then what we'll do is I think we'll give maybe a different button to clear the marquee. So if that one is not -1, then we set it to the value. Then when we make the object, it's empty. We check our values, we add each thing if it exists. Speaking of forgetting semicolons. Okay. I need to make like a key combination that I can press on my keyboard that will bring my windows back. Would it be convenient to use the scrolly thing? Let's try like this. I don't know if I'm gonna like doing it this way. We'll see how it goes. I don't use these, I think they call them workspaces, maybe? I don't use these very often, but I'm trying to get in the habit of it because it seems like sometimes they would be pretty helpful. So this time we'll select an animation and then we will submit. That's a bit awkward. My F12 is on the other workspace. I don't know if there's an easier way to to move things between workspaces. I drag them to my other screen and then back, but didn't get any network action. Okay. Segment. Oh, really? Val. Maybe we're not allowed to Unicode, universal telegraphic phrasebook. Graphic phrase. Oh, for back to the book I was talking about earlier. Maybe. Is that not the way that you get a value from a select? Right. Gotta try to remember now. Okay. Setments. Oh. We did misspell this, but we misspelled it in both places, so... Nice. Yeah, not Python with semicolons. It's gonna take some retraining. Segments text input.val is not a function. Outline 132. Should be. Should it not be? Missing something? Oh! Yes, I am in fact missing something, which is that we stored the value in the object instead of the object in the object, which is obviously not what we wanted to do. Already selected. There we go. Oh, no, we still have... Maybe I didn't refresh. This was a little bit... Okay, this is the old version. Now we have the new version. Okay, there we go. And indeed it did do that, and this time our marquee is still scrolling, even though we had blank in here. Because we now have code that was checking it and not submitting it, that means that our marquee gets to keep going. Sorry, Free Association was looking at your book, install Unicode. That wasn't Unicode. No worries. Okay, so now we should be getting our animation on this side, so we can actually go ahead and use it. It's kind of the last bit of this link here. We go if animation in request object keys, then we want to go context in with the quotes. I don't even understand why. I don't know why we did current animation, but just text to scroll. Like, feels like they should either both have current or neither have current. Let's call this current text. That way they're both current. Okay, so now what we will... Okay, we need to make one more test, actually. We want to say, so if the front end sent us an animation, the next thing we need to do is check if that animation is actually in our dictionary or not. If it's not, then we're just going to ignore it. Or we could return an error, I guess, but... if request object animation is not in context animation dictionary dot keys, then we return the error. So we will say that is still JSON. This is going to be false. Error is going to be invalid animation specified. Send. How do you do the status? Wow, that's a lot of send. Can you do the status in here? Like set status 400, or in my case, I want 404. And type. Nope. Response send. Send bytes. Okay, we won't mess with that. Looks like it's not super easy to change the status potentially. But our JSON says success false, so like the front end can still know, right? It doesn't need to be specifically an error code, but... Then if we got past this if statement, that means that our animation was in the dictionary, which means we are allowed to use it, which means we can go on and set current animation to the animation from the dictionary. Request object animation. I use semicolons in Python when it's convenient. I use semicolons in Python when I want a convenient sequence of statements in a cut and paste REPL one-liner. Oh yeah, that's actually a good idea. I've cut paste multiple lines, which kind of works most of the time, but yeah, doing multiple in one with semicolons actually is probably more convenient. Parameter for the response constructor. Okay, so we were not quite at the right level. That would be response here. Yeah, which control click is? Let me get in there. Let's go to there. Constructor. Is it just status, or what are we looking at? Status. Yeah, tuple of int or string. So we will say status. This one is 400. We're saying that's a bad request because you gave us input that's invalid. So, bad request. And in order to test it, I'm actually going to add another one of these that is fake animation. Not real. That way we can send one that the backend won't recognize. Okay. Oh, one more thing. Let's look. Are we actually going to change animations when it goes through, or? Yeah, looks like it. Okay. So as soon as we change context current animation, that means it should change which one is actually occurring on the device. Just have a weird... Eventually slowing down. It's actually missing its scroll. I think we're starting to probably do too much, truthfully, because it's like every few scrolls, every few characters, it kind of hangs a little bit longer. I think right now it was on a 0.2 delay, so meaning it would scroll one character 5 times per second at full speed. But of course it's limited by the main loop at this point. Interesting, I hadn't noticed it slow down before. See anything interesting on the printout? Okay, so if we go rainbow chase, or rainbow, let's do comet. Nope. Network error. So did we get our 400 back, actually? Might have got our 400. Error net reset. We might not have sent a response, actually. We might not have sent a response. No, we have a response still. One thing we could do is add which things actually got changed. Int object is not iterable. Status, does it want a tuple maybe? Oh, sorry, yeah, you told me this a while ago. Union. Okay, yeah. So you either give it a status enum, or you give it a tuple, which is int string. I'm guessing that's the code, and then the message probably. We could tell by looking at one of these, yeah. Yeah, and I'll go with the default one, which is not imported, so we'll import that. Yeah, thank you for the heads up on that. Oh, let me catch up on this. You're gonna have also common statuses. You'd import them all from status. Yeah, if we wanted to use more than one, I probably would instead of doing individuals. You thought about something like server on error. Oh, that's interesting. Have a separate handler function. Be kind of interesting. You want to have like a custom error handler, basically, if you want to define in all cases, I want this to happen on a 404 or something like that. Okay, so that should be good now. All right, we will just resubmit that. You got false invalid animation specified. So our error message does work, which is cool. Can't say as though I understand why we got an error instead of a successful response, though. I did get an error. Well, I mean, most specifically, that means that request animation was... That's Rainbow Comet. Is not... Oh. Yes. We don't want to do not equals, we want to do not in. Emerging this PR, there'll be a common HTTP status, but separate status objects saving typing. Consider that the problem is the server does not control the responses, thus it's not aware of them due to the chunked response. I'll have to update all my examples to 4.0. Okay. Getting better, but I still sometimes do it the wrong... My instinct is still the wrong way to try to like click up there instead of mouse wheel. Okay, there we go. So one thing I noticed is that we did change to Comet. It was successful, but it like kept the last state of the previous animation and then like used the new animation to like sweep through and erase it. And we don't want that. We want to fill it with... We want to turn all the LEDs off whenever the user changes. So inside of here, we're also going to say pixels.fill 0, which will turn everything off. Okay, there we go. So now Rainbow Comet starts up and it is just by itself. It doesn't have the rest of the stuff still. Sparkle is the same way. All of them will be the same way. Awesome. There we go. Okay. So this is kind of the most basic version of what I want to make. We have about 20 minutes left or so in tonight's stream, so let's see. What do we want to work on next? We could either go back to the HTK 1633 whatever and get that polished up and ready to submit a PR of the non-blocking marquee. Or we could keep going on the server piece of it and provide some more functionality in the server. So one thing actually that we are missing right now is an ability to set the marquee to nothing. I guess we could cheat by putting a space there, maybe? And that will technically work because it's not an empty string. It would be nicer to have a way that's not using a space, though. See, because the thing is, if I just erase, you might think, like, just erase this and submit, and you're good to go. But the problem is now our front end filters that out, right? We said if that's empty, then we don't submit it. Boy, the Q is pretty awkward. What does the capital Q look like? Oh, the capital Q looks way more like a Q. Interesting. So I don't know. You can cheat with a space and like it works for turning it off because it's actually technically not a space is a lack of a character instead of a character, but it still counts in JavaScript. I think it'd be nice to have a better way to do it though. Like I think it'd be nice if we had maybe one more button for just like clear the marquee basically. The first ever programming book that I ever had myself was an HTML programming book, and it instructed you to make your code shouty like this. For whatever reason, the memory of that book just popped back in my head when I accidentally typed button as uppercase the first time. Yeah, that's what we want right there. So then we'll make an API for that. And I mean, I guess we could reuse this if we really wanted. I think I want to have a separate URL for it, though. I mean, part of the point of this is to make the code a little bit more advanced, a little bit more complex, right? We could reuse this and just the front end sends a different data object that has a different variable inside of it. Partially, though, this is like kick the tires, show off as much of the functionality as we can, give somebody an idea of how you use all these things together in a more sort of real world environment, even though it's like doesn't have that much going on. It's more than a simple test. For the route on this one, let's do clear marquee. That is also going to be taken a let's do a delete. We might as well, right? I think ordinarily I'd probably reach for post here, but in the interest of, again, just kicking the tires using a bunch of the stuff, let's make it a delete request instead. We do want append slash. I remember the old days when HTML was constantly shouting. Found it exhausting just thinking about it, yeah. It's weird how much that does have an impact, honestly. It is like, doesn't seem like it would be that big a deal, but if you do spend a day just reading code that's all shouty caps, at the end of the day you're like, you're more anxious or whatever. I am, at least. Current text is going to be to empty, and I don't think we need to do anything else. It should take care of it once it gets to here and sets that. We do need to return the response. Need requests to get passed in here. Okay. So now we're going to want to send a delete request to this when we click on the clear button. I'm gonna put it after post.json. Doesn't really matter, but. And blinking and scrolling. Let's go. Nope. Python is showing function, not def. We want function clear marquee. Actually, we don't. We want to click on the button. We want jQuery. Actually, yeah. Let's make a variable for it. Matters less in this case, but. Actually call that clear marquee. I want a clear marquee button. I like to put the type of the thing in the ID. Okay, clear button we have. And we can go clear button, whoops, dot click function. To make a delete request, which is going to be similar to what we're doing in here. Will be delete. Marquee. Delete content type, application JSON, body. We don't actually have anything to send this time, so we can just give it empty. Result, await. Guess it's mad because it's not inside of an async function. So I guess we're gonna go async function clear marquee, put this inside of that, and then call that from here because that's obviously way different. Therefore, can work without errors. Coffee. Oops, nope, did it again. Clear. Does nothing. Got no requests. I refresh. Huh? Okay. I don't know why, but we got the web workflow a couple of times. Maybe we should use, maybe we should not use, oh, that's default, I guess, though. Maybe we should make a URL that's not the root. I don't know why it would do. I guess maybe if we maybe it's because it wasn't running yet. Maybe I loaded the page before CodePy actually had the server started. That's my best guess. I don't know. That's interesting. Web editor. Change to that, but then if we go clear, solid, still nothing happens. Console? On the console. Huh, okay, so literally nothing is happening when we click. I think we probably messed up the click listener. Right, yeah, that's an ID. There we go. There we go. Now we have a way to clear it. When we clear it, should we take it out of here too, or should we leave that in case you want to go back to it? Because now you could just submit to get back to it. Oh, something wrote to the device and it rebooted. I don't know. I could see a case for both ways. I think I prefer to leave the text there. I think I prefer to leave the text there. As a user, I would say it probably feels a little bit more natural if after you click clear, this also gets cleared out. I would say that probably feels more correct as a user, but there's a small chance that you save text that somebody actually did want. And I would say the small chance of saving text that a user did want outweighs it not feeling right to the majority of users. Do I actually believe that and stand by that, though? I think I'm talking myself around to the clear side, actually. It seems nice to store the user's data, but the majority of time, if they click clear, they probably want to clear what they want. And so we're actually just giving them extra... We're just giving them extra steps, because now they need to, like, Control-A backspace or something, right? Like, we basically just gave them an extra thing to do. Let's also clear it out. Should clear it. Okay. Save that. Oops, save that. I'll be right back. Okay. Whoops. Submit, and then we have web editor. Go clear. I didn't refresh, did I? I don't think I refreshed. Oh, now we're back to no, that still don't work. Didn't give any errors either. Did I not save the page? Yeah, we don't have this in here. Oh, I put it in the wrong spot, actually. Yeah, this should be in here. Oh. Resetted. We wanted to use, well, if we wanted to use it, quote unquote, in the real world, and we were going to have it plugged into a computer, we should probably modify bootpi to disable the auto reload. There we go. Now it clears it and it takes it away from here. Cool. All right. I would say that's a pretty good start for what I'm aiming for. Plug handler for catching file not exist. Back to the way I could do error handling. How Flask does it, it returns a response, but if you pass a generator as a body, it uses chunked encoding. Seems logical, but it's more advanced and requires some more knowledge and understanding of Python. All right, I think I'm going to call it a night there. So this has, again, been the Deep Dive program. I will be back tomorrow morning if you are interested in this sort of content with working on CircuitPython stuff. You can catch more of this every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time. I stream over on my own channel, FoamyGuy_Twitch. You can follow me there if you want to get notifications. I'll also drop links in the live broadcast chat when I'm getting started. I think tomorrow I will for sure be working on polishing up the non-blocking marquee to get that submitted as a PR. Also, I know that there are PRs that are ready for another look. So we'll probably be back to doing some more PRs. A lot of the rounds of PyCon submissions. I went through and did the first review and the feedback on all of them, and a couple of them the author has gotten back and posted another comment as a response. So it's either ready for another look, or it has a response and a new question or something like that. So I'll be following up on that stuff. Tonight I really wanted to get my own hands dirty and work on my own code more so than reviewing. I've been doing a lot of reviewing lately, and I was eager to get back to tinkering myself. So that's why we worked on this tonight instead of doing some of those. But that is it for now. I appreciate all of you for watching. Definitely as well, like we said before, Huge Hug Reports. Thank you, of course, to Michael Pocusa for working on all of these extended features in the HTTP server library, including for noticing that bug we ran across earlier and fixing it live. That's super awesome. Definitely appreciate that. For everybody else, thanks for watching along. I hope you found this interesting. If you are interested in tinkering on it yourself, again, the way to get started right now is it's in the PR only, so you'll have to head to HTTP server library and then check it out from this PR number 54. That's where you can get the version of the library that you saw me working with today, which is the one that has all the latest features and stuff in it. So I will head out for now. I will see you all later, and thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a good evening and a good rest of your weekend. Thanks.